We've all felt it. That subtle, persistent unease, a quiet dissonance humming beneath the surface of our daily lives. It's not announced in headlines or diagnosed in clinics, but its symptoms are everywhere. Perhaps you've witnessed it while sharing a public space, observing an interaction that feels less like a conversation and more like a transactional audit. Maybe you've lived it firsthand after an encounter that left you feeling emotionally depleted, questioning the very point of connection. Or you've watched friends, vibrant, assured individuals, gradually dim as they contort themselves to meet ever-shifting, ever-expanding expectations. This isn't about isolated incidents or simple bad luck. It's a pervasive climate, a cultural fog that's settled in, reshaping how we relate, what we expect, and who we become in the process. There's a chilling calculus at play, often masked as empowerment or self-care, that leaves a trail of fatigue and isolation in its wake. And while it touches all demographics, its contours become particularly defined, particularly rigid, in a certain season of life. A season where experience should ideally cultivate wisdom, yet often seems to cement something else entirely, a fortress of demands, a professionalization of personal life. This leads to those heavy, silent questions that more and more people are carrying. Why does a first meeting often feel like a high-stakes assessment of net worth rather than a mutual exploration of personality? When did basic appreciation become a rare artifact, while the presumption of provision, merely for showing up, became an unchallenged standard? How did we arrive at a dynamic where one person's fleeting discomfort is treated as a five-alarm emergency, while the other's sustained burdens are dismissed as their own work to do? Why, in the aftermath of a fractured bond, is the narrative so often one-sided, absolving one party of any agency, regardless of the tangible weight they carried? Most people, when confronting this, make a critical error in perspective. They personalize the dysfunction. They think, I need to try harder, I chose poorly, the right one is still out there. They approach it as a puzzle of individual compatibility, believing if they just optimize themselves enough, more success, more physique, more patience, the code will crack. They're examining a single tree with a magnifying glass, blaming its leaves for withering, while missing the fact the entire forest is experiencing an engineered drought. What if the behavior we're encountering isn't a bug in the system? What if this sense of entitlement, this focus on consumption over connection, this emotional detachment, isn't a glitch, but a feature? What if it's being cultivated, not by shadowy figures, but by the very bedrock of our modern existence, the relentless, impersonal engine of economics? This isn't about assigning blame to a gender. Blame is a dead-end street that weakens the one who dwells on it. This is about pulling back the curtain on the stage where we're all performing, often without ever seeing the script we've been given. Once you see the machinery, the play changes entirely. Subscribe right now if you're ready to look beyond the surface. Hit that button and join a community that values clarity over comfort. Your perspective is about to shift. Let's begin with a foundational, sobering truth. The overarching system, the complex mesh of corporate interests, media ecosystems, financial structures, and cultural narratives, is fundamentally indifferent to your personal happiness, your search for love, or your legacy of meaningful relationships. It runs on a single, cold fuel, profit. This isn't conspiracy. It's the simple, brutal logic of a market-driven world. Actions and narratives that drive cash flow are promoted. Those that don't are not. No one is targeting your specific heart. But the cumulative effect of billions of decisions aimed at monetizing every human experience creates an environment where stable, deeply rooted connection is not the ideal outcome. It's a missed revenue opportunity. Seen through this lens, behavioral patterns that seem irrational suddenly reveal a terrifying logic. People aren't born with a checklist of ultimatums. They are shaped, day by day, by an environment that financially rewards instability and dissatisfaction. Think it through. A stable, happy, self-contained partnership is, economically speaking, a low-yield asset. One home, one set of appliances, shared resources, less impulsive spending, less reliance on external validation to fill an inner void. They are bad consumers. They are too independent. Now, contrast that with fragmentation. Two separate individuals, post-breakup or perpetually searching, require two of everything. Two homes, two sets of bills, two subscriptions, two streams of consumption. The economic engine roars to life. Real estate agents, lawyers, divorce mediators, moving companies all see business. The wellness and self-help industry expands, selling courses and seminars to find yourself again. Dating platforms count their premium subscriptions. The beauty and fashion sectors thrive on the need to remain competitively marketable. Food delivery services boom for those eating alone. The entertainment industry feeds on lonely hours needing filling. Every moment of relational strife, every decision to leave, triggers a cascade of transactions. This is the unspoken GDP of discontent. The system has no vested interest in your peaceful settlement. It thrives on your perpetual search, your lingering anxiety, your attempt to consume your way to wholeness. The pain you feel in disconnection is, for the market, merely the cha-ching of a register. Does this connect with your experience? Comment below with the word recognize if you've seen this dynamic at play. Look at the cultural programming, often dismissed as mere entertainment. It is anything but. It is a relentless curriculum. Popular narratives consistently glorify chaos, reframing toxicity as passion, caprice as strength, and relentless demanding as knowing one's worth. The message is clear. Stability is boring, drama is desirable, and your worth is tied to your ability to command, not to build. Social media algorithms compound this, creating a narcissism factory. Content that promotes provocation, outrage, or unattainable luxury receives monumental engagement. A profile celebrating a quiet, committed, reciprocal relationship gathers a modest circle of likes. A profile showcasing consumption, dramatizing conflicts, or listing non-negotiable demands can attract viral attention and lucrative sponsorships. The lesson absorbed, particularly by younger audiences, is unambiguous. To be valued by the world, you must perform a version of yourself that is high maintenance, perpetually dissatisfied, and treat your personal life as a branded commodity. By the time someone reaches their fourth decade, these patterns are often deeply ingrained, hardened by years of reinforcement. The initial promise of having it all collides with the reality of time's passage. Instead of prompting a strategic reassessment, this collision often triggers a defensive doubling down. The armor of demands thickens, not out of innate malice, but as a protection mechanism for a psyche that feels betrayed by the fairy tale it was sold. What manifests as cold entitlement is frequently the scar tissue of profound disappointment. The individual was promised a kingdom but finds themselves alone in a well-furnished apartment, armed with a list of requirements, but no one left who meets them. But let's be unequivocally clear. Men are not passive observers in this theater. They are actively processed through a parallel system. The programming is simply different. The modern man is conditioned to see his value as almost exclusively utilitarian. He is a solver, a provider, a function. His emotional landscape is treated as irrelevant, even inconvenient. His fatigue is a sign of weakness. His need for support is a failure to be the rock. He is taught that attention, care, and affection are not freely given elements of partnership, but currencies he must earn through continuous achievement and provision. If his partner is unhappy, the fault is his computational failure. He didn't optimize correctly. He wasn't successful enough, attentive enough, generous enough. We are being prepped for different, opposing roles, set on a collision course. One side is subtly coached to see the other as either an oppressor or a resource. The other is coached to see their counterpart as a critic or a trophy. In this schema, partnership is impossible. Only transaction remains. And in any transaction, each party is incentivized to maximize their own take while minimizing their contribution. This is the source of that palpable coldness in modern dating. It's not a meeting of souls. It's a tense merger negotiation between two personal corporations. Like this video if this analysis is resonating with you. Every like tells the algorithm this truth-telling needs to reach more people. Share it with a friend who needs to see it. A particularly ingenious piece of social engineering is the weaponization of the real man or gentleman archetype. Historically, in a traditional social contract, these roles had a logical symmetry. The man assumed primary responsibility for external security and provision. The woman assumed primary responsibility for the internal cohesion of the home and family. It was a difficult, often inequitable, but clear exchange, strength and resources for loyalty, nurture, and respect. Today, that contract has been publicly and rightfully nullified. Women have, and deserve, full autonomy, careers, and independence. Yet, the archaic expectations of the man's role often remain stubbornly intact, stripped of their original reciprocal context. You are demanded to be the protector, provider, and payer, a gentleman in the traditional sense. But when you seek to exercise the decision-making or leadership that was historically part of that same package, you are met with cries of control or patriarchy. The rules are fluid, shifting the moment your adherence ceases to benefit the other party. The gentleman label today is too often a tactical leash, pulled to compel convenient behavior, not a mutual code of honor. A man who unthinkingly plays the chivalric part with someone operating under a wholly modern, self-focused framework isn't being noble, he's being strategically outmaneuvered. This leads to the deepest vulnerability, the male capacity for emotional depth and loyalty. The stereotype of the emotionally stunted man is a profound lie. Men form intense, irrational bonds. Our need for acceptance, for a place of peace and loyalty, is our greatest strength and our most exploitable weakness. When a man commits, his critical faculties can dangerously dim. He will tolerate neglect, rationalize poor treatment, and redouble his efforts, clinging to the hope that if I just give more, she will finally see my value. The relationship industrial complex knows this intimately. An entire sub-industry sells women strategies to manage a man, to inspire him to provide more, to frame requests in ways he cannot refuse. This isn't love. This is applied behavioral psychology for profit. A man who lacks the emotional intelligence to discern genuine care from skilled management becomes a resource to be optimized, not a partner to be cherished. Simultaneously, a predatory army of influencers, pseudo-experts, and coaches parasitizes loneliness and anxiety. Their business model depends on keeping their audience in a state of perpetual grievance and heightened entitlement. They preach that any compromise is self-betrayal, any disagreement is a red flag, and that setting boundaries means making unilateral demands. They sell a potent, addictive lie that you are owed a perfect, effort-free fulfillment by the world. A person saturated in this content doesn't arrive at a date to meet a human being. They arrive with an internalized checklist, a series of pass/fail tests curated by strangers on the internet, designed to disqualify all but a fictional ideal. The result is a landscape of profound loneliness, skyrocketing rates of disconnection, and a pharmaceutical industry booming from treating the resulting anxiety and depression. Male burnout is the silent, swelling crisis of our era. Men who have been financially and emotionally depleted, often severed from their children and stripped of assets, are simply logging off. They choose a quiet, strategic isolation, not out of misanthropy, but as the last remaining form of self-preservation. They remove themselves from a game they perceive as rigged, leaving the system puzzled as its most reliable engines begin to shut down. But let's be brutally honest. In this dynamic, there are no true winners. The system that teaches women to be perpetual queens offers a cruel expiration date it never advertises. Time, the ultimate non-renewable resource, marches on. A highly accomplished, independent woman in her 40s may find the field of genuine, willing suitors has dramatically narrowed. Men her age may be seeking less complicated connections, may be exhausted from previous battles, or may themselves have exited the marketplace. The illusion of infinite choice shatters, leaving behind the quiet of an expensive, empty home and the sting of a narrative that promised everything but delivered solitude. The resulting defensive sharpness, the "I don't need anyone" armor, is often just the outer shell protecting a profound, unspoken sense of betrayal. So what is the path forward? How do you build something real in a world that profits from the fake? First, abandon all hope that the external world will change to accommodate your search for authenticity. It will not until it becomes unprofitable to do otherwise. Your salvation lies not in waiting for the storm to pass, but in learning to build an ark. Second, you must undertake the most critical project of your life, rewriting your own internal code. You must develop a fierce immunity to social pressure and the deafening noise of marketed expectations. You must learn to distinguish your own genuine voice from the downloaded scripts of what you should, want, or accept. A healthy, modern connection is now a radical act of rebellion. It begins with radical, uncomfortable honesty and a conscious rejection of prefabricated roles. True equality isn't a slogan. It's a daily, practiced balance of contributions, emotional, practical, financial, and spiritual. It's a partnership with one goalpost for both teams, where the rules don't change at halftime. If you find yourself in a dynamic where you are perpetually investing and only receiving demands in return, you are not in a partnership. You are funding a bottomless pit. Close the account. Men must reclaim their right to have standards, to choose, and to say no. Reject the conditioning that frames you only as a supplicant. Your attention, loyalty, and commitment are scarce, high-value commodities. They are not to be spent on those who cannot recognize their worth. The most powerful skill you can cultivate is the willingness to stand up, politely into conversation, and walk away the moment you detect disrespect or manipulative intent. The moment you fear losing someone more than you value your own dignity, you have already lost. The ability to walk away, calmly and finally, is the ultimate source of strength. It transforms you from a participant in their game to the curator of your own life. The couples who not only survive but thrive today are architectural pioneers. They have consciously constructed a private microculture with its own values, its own rhythms, and its own definitions of success. They have tuned out the cacophony of external advice and turned inward, building something that works for them, not for the marketplace. Most importantly, you must become anti-fragile. Invest in yourself not as a strategy to attract others, but as a moral imperative. Forge a career that provides not just income, but autonomy. Train your body for resilience, not just aesthetics. Cultivate your mind through reading and real-world experience. Nurture deep, non-transactional friendships. Develop passions that make you lose track of time. Travel, create, build. Make your life so rich, so engaging, and so full of purpose that another person is welcomed as a celebrated companion on the journey, not as the destination that gives the journey meaning. Here lies the paradox. The less you need a relationship to complete you, the more capable you are of building a healthy one. Desperation is a scent everyone detects and instinctively avoids. It signals emptiness. Self-contained fulfillment, however, radiates a calm, stable energy that is inherently attractive. It communicates that you are offering a partnership from a place of abundance, not seeking a rescue from a place of deficit. When you have done your own work, when you are not seeking a parent, a therapist, or a trophy in a partner, your vision clears. You begin to see people as complex human beings, not as solutions to your problems or validators of your worth. In that clarity, you have a fighting chance. A chance to recognize the other person who is also tired of the performance. The one who has also seen through the game and is looking for a co-conspirator to build something authentic, something quiet, and something real against the tide. They exist. They are rare, often hidden in plain sight, weary of the noise themselves. But they are there. Why does the other, more jarring dynamic seem so prevalent? Because the world is currently optimized for it. Because entire industries are built on feeding the insecurity and ambition that fuels it. Stop being angry at the individuals caught in the loop. View it like hazardous weather. You don't rage against a hurricane. You check the forecast, secure your shutters, and ensure your foundation is solid. Your mission is to become the architect of that unshakable foundation. Become the man who can navigate this tumultuous sea without losing his compass. The one who preserves his capacity for kindness without being naive, his strength without being cruel, and his ability to love in an age that tries to commodify every feeling. If you find a fellow traveler who wants to join your crew as an equal navigator, not a pampered passenger with a list of complaints, cherish that bond. It is the rarest of treasures. And if you don't, your ship is still seaworthy, your course still purposeful, and your journey still yours. You remain the captain, your hand on the wheel, navigating by your own stars, regardless of the prevailing winds. If this breakdown of the modern landscape has clicked pieces into place for you, you're in the right harbor. This channel is a dedicated space for cutting through the noise and exposing the underlying mechanics of our social reality. We're not here to point fingers. We're here to provide the map so you can stop being a piece on someone else's board. Subscribe today. Don't just watch. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This is just the beginning. We're diving deeper into the structures that shape your life, your work, and your mind. The most crucial insights are yet to come. Share this video aggressively. Post it. Send it. The conversation needs to move from silent frustration to shared understanding. Like it to push this truth further into the light. And comment. Tell us which part hit home the hardest. Your engagement is what breaks the algorithm of silence. Welcome aboard. It's time to navigate by truth.